Let me begin by acknowledging the Rubanomics Global Forum and the co-organizers of today's event, Athena Infonomics, Catalyst AIC, Catalyst Management Services, Global Development Incubator, Head Held High Foundation, Jan AI, and Kriya University, and the distinguished group of leaders that it has helped put together for this event. It's an honor and a privilege for me to join all of you virtually here on the sidelines of the Skoll World Forum in a setting designed for candid, high-trust exchange interactions. And I do firmly believe that platforms such as these are important, not just for the ideas that they bring together, but as Madanji pointed out in his inaugural address, for shaping collective action. It is also a privilege that I'm speaking at an event that is being held at the Oxford Mathematical Institution, an institution globally respected for advancing how we understand systems, complexity, and interdependence. For nearly 1 millennia, Oxford has been known to be a place for asking first principle questions, and for many centuries, this institution has shaped how we understand systems, mathematical, social, and economic, by challenging assumptions and reimagining structures. And in that sense, it is only fitting that the inaugural session of the Rubanomics Global Forum is being held in Oxford and at the Oxford Mathematical Institution. For much of the past century, development thinking has rested on familiar binaries: rural versus urban, welfare versus markets, state versus enterprise. And for good reason. At one point of time, these binaries served a purpose. But today, in this rapidly evolving world, in India and across the world, these boundaries are making place for an ambitious, brave new way of understanding how societies grow, and a way that recognizes these spaces not as divides, but as parts of a single large evolving continuum. Across countries and regions, we are witnessing a convergence of economic transformation, climate change, shifting patterns of mobility. And these forces are rapidly reshaping how people engage and re-engage with livelihoods and communities. The implication is clear. Sustainable and inclusive growth cannot be built through isolated interventions or segmented geographies or artificial silos. It must be designed as a system, connected, adaptive, and capable of responding to both opportunity and risk. And this is where rural development assumes renewed significance, not as a parallel agenda to growth, but as a core driver of how economies expand, diversify, and sustain themselves over time. Rural regions today sit at the intersection of productivity, resilience, and inclusion, and therefore play a defining role in shaping future growth trajectories. Let me take a moment to dwell at a federal level on what Manisha ji has given a field's view of. Over the past decade, we in India have undertaken one of the largest inclusion efforts in human history. Guided by the principle of Antyodaya, reaching the last person or leaving no one behind, we have moved towards inclusion and saturation in not just basic services, but also financial inclusion and social production. And in this journey, our programs in rural development, many of them being implemented through the ministry which I head, have evolved as enablers of economic transformation. Let us take connectivity as an example. The Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, our rural connectivity program, has vastly expanded rural connectivity. 800,000 kilometers of rural roads have vastly improved access to markets, services, and economic centers, reducing isolation, increasing incomes, and enabling greater economic integration. Let me take another example. Our rural housing program, called the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, has helped construct over 32 million rural households, strengthening the foundations of security and dignity for rural households. Yet another example, our National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, which is now transiting to the Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission, has focused on not just wage employment, but productive asset creation in areas such as water conservation, irrigation, and land development, so that wage support transforms and translates into long term livelihood resilience. Over 50 billion person days of employment generation have proved to be durable investments in long term resilience and economic stability. Our Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, the National Rural Livelihoods Mission, has built a vast network of women led self help groups covering over 100 million households, grouped into 10 million women led self help groups, one of the largest economic networks in the world, with the bank linkages cumulatively exceeding 134 billion US dollars and support to over 8.1 million enterprises. This is not just financial inclusion, it is decentralized, community led economic architecture capable of driving economic growth, local development, resilience, all at scale. The first phase that I just spoke about was about skills, livelihood, dignity, development. But what is the architecture of the future? What is our vision going forward? We firmly believe that the next phase has to be about unlocking productivity, enabling enterprise, about prosperity, enterprise, and resilience. Building on this vision, we in India are advancing an integrated approach which was announced in our annual budget for 2025. And what is this scheme? What is this vision? Rural prosperity and rural resilience. And our vision towards both prosperity and resilience at the rural level is built on an architecture which reflects a shift from just supporting individual livelihoods to designing economic systems that are resilient, that are productive, that promote and scale rural enterprises, deepen market linkages, build adaptive capacity to risks, including climate, market, and livelihood risks. By promoting diversified and climate resilient livelihoods, strengthening local institutions, improving market access, aligning public investment, community platforms, private capital, and innovation at district levels, this approach seeks to build rural economies that are adaptive, stable, and opportunity oriented. And the objective is a gradual construction of a network development system where security enables aspiration, assets enable markets, institutions enable entrepreneurship, and community and connectivity enables scale. But this transformation that we are planning for and discussing is not unique to India. It reflects a global challenge, a broader challenge: how to ensure that future growth is inclusive, distributive, and sustainable. The Rubanomics framework offers a valuable perspective in this context. It reminds us that the rural urban continuum is not a divide to be managed, but a space where growth, resilience, and opportunity can advance together in a continuum. Rubenomics also positions AI as an ethical amplifier of human enterprise and aspiration across this continuum, multiplying human effort to enable scale, inclusion, with shared prosperity and dignity at the center. We in India strongly resonate with this view. We believe that AI can enable local market intelligence, forecast skill needs, personalize training pathways, power intelligent job matching platforms, identify enterprises that need targeting support, improve credit readiness assessments, track growth patterns, support stronger income pathways, and greater resilience for human households. We also believe that AI can reduce friction, broaden participation, build trust in speed and schemes, and AI powered analytics with grievance systems embedded can highlight clusters of service delivery problems, help administrations intervene earlier before problems get thrown up. And what I mentioned about how AI can be used in rural development is not just a vision, it's not just something that we are thinking of. In some way or the other, many of these are already finding applications in the schemes that we are implementing at scale. But we also believe that any framework for development, any vision, must be placed firmly in a local idiom in respect for community, traditions, and culture. Across the world, rural regions are central to achieving balanced and resilient growth trajectories. The opportunity before us today is to build systems that not just expand economic opportunity, but also strengthen the capacity of communities to adapt to change and manage risk. This is why any opportunities for growth, any vision for the future has to be located and relocated in the trust, tradition, and culture of the communities they mean to serve. The future of development will depend on how effectively we align growth with resilience, with tradition, with abilities to absorb risk, and to align the opportunities being thrown up by digital, by AI, with the local needs of the community. And finally, the question is not whether rural regions will be part of the next phase of growth. The question is, how can we intentionally design systems that enable them to lead it? How can we design systems that enable to marry tradition with modernity? And how can we design systems that place the welfare of the communities we seek to grow at the center of the systems that we are designing for them? The scarcest resource is no longer human action, it is collaborative action. And if we get that right, inclusive growth will no longer be an aspiration, it will become a natural outcome of development. The challenge before us is to co create, connect, and commit so that the full potential of the rural urban continuum is not just imagined and realized. It is in this spirit that I welcome today's convening. I thank all the conveners, I thank all the co conveners, and I am particularly impressed by the call for action which the conveners mentioned at the beginning of the forum. And I do believe that the collective discussions in today's forum will lead to a call of action which can ultimately lead towards the rural enterprise, the rural continuum that we all spoke about. I sincerely thank the organizers of this forum for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts with you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.